Hey, everybody, you're kicking it with the Homeboys and the Homeboys podcast, where we talk everything in the world of real estate investing. Whether you're just getting started or a seasoned vet, we're going to give you our over 40 years of combined real estate experience to help you on your investing journey. Today, we've got a really amazing guest with us. We are going to be talking to Matt Krueger of Rental Cash Flow. He is blowing up on social media, but the Homeboys are most impressed with his work ethic and how he started from nothing.
Yeah, we're going to cover a lot of topics today with him, but most importantly, we're going to talk about how he started with almost nothing and was just working a dead-end job and has turned that into financial freedom, quit his job, and now spends his time with his family and managing his investment properties. Pretty cool.
We're really excited to have you, man. How you doing?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, you guys. Really appreciate the invite out here. So I'm excited to meet you and kind of dig into how we got started from nothing like you guys did and to get to where we are now. So,
well, I got to say, we've been hanging out for the last couple hours. We got to go grab some lunch, which is very important to the Homeboys, you know, so we got to go get some steaks and hang out. But what I've liked most about our time is, like, I just am captivated by your story and your work ethic, your drive, how you started from literally nothing, working a job that you didn't really want to do, that you felt was more of a dead-end job. I think it was a fine job, but it was like what you thought was a dead-end job. But can you just kind of give us kind of an overview of your story and how you started, your family background, your real estate story? Just kind of give us the breakdown.
Yeah, so I won't take you all the way back to conception, but I can lead into wherever here.
We got time.
Born in Wisconsin, and I grew up in Iowa though. So I've been in Iowa pretty much all my life. Grew up with not a whole lot of money in my house. My dad did IT work for an architectural company that ended up going bankrupt in 2008. That was my first taste of, real estate, was stay away, and my dad and I kind of still see, differently from each other, but he's conforming. So, but yeah, so, I mean, we lived in a house where if you wanted something, you had to pay for it on your own. So if I wanted a car, I had to save up and pay for that. If I wanted a phone, same thing. When I went to college, I got a degree in biblical studies and youth pastoral, and I liked working with kids. I liked working with people, so that was kind of my goal. But I had to pay for it on my own. I ended up working a job as a janitor. I was a custodian. Putting urinal cakes in toilets.
I used to sell urinal cakes.
We talked about that. Yeah, I probably bought from your company. So I did that for 2 years while I went to college, so I could pay my way through it. I graduated debt free. I used to have the Dave Ramsey mindset of debt is bad. Get away from debt. All things debt is terrible. And but I never learned about the benefit to using debt to your advantage to purchase cash flowing assets. And then I met my wife. I'll kind of fast forward a couple years after college. Met my wife of, it'll be 9 years in a couple weeks here. She's not left me yet. She's tried a couple times, but no.
Happy early anniversary.
Thank you. So 4 kids under 7 and living the dream.
Yeah,
so
congratulations to you, and my condolences to her.
Yeah, I know. Right? I don't know what she sees me. I still don't. Yeah, I ask her the question all the time. Why do you love me? What do you see me? I don't know. It's like, that's not a good answer. You got to give me something. But no, we've done great, and she's been a huge supporter and partner with me through this journey. But her parents had done real estate investing, and that's really what got my mindset first on seeing this and the impact of a man who was a meat cutter at a grocery store become financially free through purchasing rental properties and leaving his full-time job. And
that's what her dad did. He was a meat cutter who.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he was cutting meat at a grocery store and delivering papers on the side. They tried some investment, things. They bought ostriches at the end of the ostrich meat fat or whatever, and I don't know, ended up losing tens of thousands of dollars from that, but got right back up, paid it off through other side jobs, and then just went after the next thing, which was real estate for them. And I saw this picture of this couple who's, in their 50s at this point. When I had met them, they were in their early 50s. and they're spending a month out of their year in Tucson or South Padre Island, and and living as property managers part-time, doing their own thing. And I'm like, I want that. Like, how do I get this? And at the time though, like I'm making $35,000 a year as a cell phone rep at a Sprint store. And I'm like, there's no way I can save up 20% down on a rental property. There's just no way. My wife was a vet tech, which those, vet techs do not get paid hardly anything. So it was like $14 an hour or something, but we got pregnant and we got baby number 1 coming, and we're living in an apartment, and we're like, we want to buy a home. What do we do? And I'm driving to work one day and I'm listening to a podcast, because that's what I knew. It's like, I need to educate myself, because I wanted this so bad. Educate myself in a way that we can buy a rental property without putting 20% down. And I heard this guy talk about house hacking, which I had heard before, but where you buy a property, with multiple units, you live in one of them, rent out the rest. I couldn't get a loan for a duplex because the duplexes in my area were $200,000 and I'm making 35. It's like, I can't do that. But this guy talks about buying a single family home, moving into that, living in it for a year, and then moving out and renting it out. And I'm like, I can probably do that. We found a home for $90,000. It had been on the market for a few months. It was the definition of grandmother's home. There was carpet in the kitchen that had like potty stains on it, and like gold speckled countertops and wood paneled walls and orange shade carpet in the bedrooms. And this thing was ugly and it smelled bad.
You know the only thing worse than carpet in the kitchen? Carpet in the bathroom.
It did not have that. Thankfully, we got away from that. That may have been a deal breaker for me, but no.
So disgusting.
but yeah, so it's like, well, we had a few $1,000s that we had saved up. We had scraped by and saved this. And I'm like, man, I can't even afford, to close with the closing costs on this thing. So I came in and I offered $92,000. So that way the seller would pay the closing costs. So that was our agreement. He paid closing costs. So I got that wrapped into the loan. A lot of people don't know that you can do that either. Just work with the seller on it. And we did that. We found a bank. I called 10 different banks to find a bank that offered a first-time home buyer credit of $1,000. We literally went out to the Iowa Wild hockey team game. We got on their huge teleprompter holding up this giant check, and then the mascot for the Iowa Wild showed up to our closing and signed the papers we were on camera signing papers with this guy in the room. So it was weird, but there's still these opportunities out there, and people don't realize that either, that there's options for buying your first home. But $92,000, we were all in for $2,500, which was the biggest check I had ever written in my life at that time. It was tons of money for me.
And what year is this?
This was in 2015. This is in 2015.
Right on.
Yep. This was 2015. And I want to say our interest rate on a conventional loan for the primary residence was like 3.25 or 3.5 at that time.
Amazing.
We actually refinanced that property in 2021, and now it's at 2.65.
It's almost laughable to think you would refinance a 3.5 rate.
I know, but it saved us money, and it was worth it. But so we moved into this property that was just awful, and it was myself and my pregnant wife, and we ended up having our first baby while we lived in that home too. Our daughter, who's now 7 years old. And
was it still a construction zone at that point?
No,
were you done?
We were done. But we saved and we did stuff, and we saved and we did stuff. I mean, we put Kangaback carpet in there because I couldn't afford a carpet guy. I couldn't afford to pay somebody, so we went to local hardware store and bought Kangaback carpet, which has the pad attached, and you don't stretch it, and you just lay the stuff down.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, $900 to carpet the whole home. That's what we did. 3 bedrooms and a living room. I bought LVP wasn't a thing at the time, so I don't even know what kind of cheap whatever
laminate flooring of some sort.
But there is a store where they sell like used construction materials, and I went there and I bought tile for the backsplash in our kitchen and bathroom, and all in, we probably spent $5,000 on this property as we lived there throughout the course of a year, fixing this thing up.
It's awesome.
Which, now it's like, well, it doesn't seem like a lot of money, but back then, we were living on ramen and beans and rice.
Right.
and going through this. But then we moved out of the property because I did know this one thing, and I don't know if it's different from state to state, but there's a law where, if you purchase a property as a primary residence on a conventional loan, you have to live in that property for 1 year before you do that again, unless there's extenuating circumstances, otherwise like a job change or some reason that you have to move. So that's what we followed. We did that. We tried in the middle of all of this to do it before the year was up, and our loan actually got bounced back to the underwriter saying we couldn't. So that's kind of how I learned about it. But so we did 5 homes in 5 years, this route. And that's how we built the foundation of, all of our real estate investing from then on. So,
5 years and 5 houses in 5 years, right? Mm-hmm. And Clint, you did 13 houses in 15 years.
No, I mean, I guess if you did it all, it would be 21 years. I'm in my 13th home in the last 22 years.
Yeah, so, I'm just at 15 houses in 25 years.
Just, only.
Well, yeah. I mean, but I guess the point is that, it's a great way to get into real estate is by keeping the houses that you live in.
Yeah, I'm just talking about my primary residence. Right. I'm not talking about other investments, but I've had 13 different primary residence homes.
I regret selling every single one I sold. I wish I would have kept them all. And I know that's one of your biggest regrets in real estate too, Clint.
Oh, big time. I mean, I've got, we talk about that house that I had downtown, I bought it for 40 and I sold it for 500,000. And it sold last summer for $1 million.
Yeah.
It's hard to stomach. But if you're in real estate long enough, you're going to have woulda, coulda, shouldas. But the thing I really like about your story is you've done it kind of a generation after Scotty and I, and we hear a lot from folks saying, "Oh, well, I can't do it now because it's different now," and I appreciate your work ethic substantially. How you and your wife, fixed the house up around you before you had your first daughter, and then you kept going. You get a lot of naysayers saying, I can't. And I think that you're, a poster boy for you can. And sometimes it's harder for Scotty and I to explain this to folks because we're a couple of middle-aged fuddy-duddies, but you're not a middle-aged fuddy-duddy.
Not yet.
So,
I just turned 30 a couple weeks ago.
Your kids will finally turn you in. They'll finally turn you into it. It's inevitable. Sure, but so enjoy it while you're not. But what someone that's getting started out, people say that they can't. Like what's your biggest advice to those people? That's who I really want to hear from in this podcast.
I think the biggest misconception from people is that, it's impossible, because I read online that it's impossible. I heard this person say it's not possible because housing prices are too high or interest rates are too high, or, I can't save the 20% down or whatever else. I have never, ever saved up 20% down for property, ever. Even though we've done 15 real estate transactions now in the last, 8.5 years. And in none of them have I put 20% down, because we've learned how to be creative. And, there's this typical creative financing where you do sub-2 loans or seller financing. And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about using, knowledge to find ways to be creative, to buy the property in a way that's different from the normal, standard of 20% down to buy a house that you're going to have as a rental. And that's what we did. I mean,
you asked a lot of questions.
We asked the questions and I learned. I mean, when we bought our first home, I get this all the time. People are asking me, well, even if I get a home, I don't know how to renovate a home. I didn't either. I knew nothing. I mean, I'm laying down flooring like, I don't know let me just look on YouTube here real quick. Now, you guys may not have had that when you were starting, but
no, I bought a house with 4 of my friends and we lived in it and fixed it up.
Yeah.
So we pulled our down payment money. We were idiots. There was not a time there wasn't a beer in the hand that was holding either the screwdriver or the hammer. We figured it out.
Pretty safe.
Yeah. Oh, it was real. It was brilliant.
They didn't have power tools back then. So
it was before electricity.
It was invented.
Yeah, but you could have tipped over a candle and started a fire like the Chicago fire.
Yeah, that whale oil, it's real flammable.
But yeah, I mean, YouTube is a huge tool. You look online for things. You find people in your life, like my in-laws who had done some of this stuff as well. I would ask for help. Now they believe in not being there and doing it with you the entire time, which I appreciate and respect. And I, paid my father-in-law to do things as well. When I'm working and I can't get over at a house and I had a deadline or something, but otherwise, he might show me how to start, or I might look it up online or something else. And you just learn as you go, just like anything else. You're never going to be an expert right away, but you got to start somewhere. So I would say to those people that are just like, how do you start the day, or what do you do? It's like, maybe house hacking's not for you. Maybe do something else. Maybe you like the home you're living in and you have kids and you're established, but you can't save up for that 20% down. Well, I guarantee you've got equity in the property that you're living in, especially over this last year, what we've appreciated, 12% on average, nationwide, appreciation. You've got equity in your property. Pull out a home equity line of credit. That's what we did last year. We pulled out a home equity line of credit on our primary residence, and that gave us $150,000 to use for down payments and other stuff. I bought a condo in South Padre Island. I did a cash deal on this that we bought for $210,000 last March, and the market shifted right after we had kind of purchased this property. This was an inside deal. I had created a relationship with a property manager that we knew and my in-laws knew, and we made that relationship, and he let us know when an owner was selling. And we got this property at a great price. Other properties were selling for $50,000 more at the time. I moved my family down to South Padre Island, and we lived in that condo for a month as we renovated this thing. Now I paid some contractors to do some things that I couldn't do down there, like carry a granite countertop up 3 flights of stairs. It was a 3rd floor walk up. I could do that. But, dude, these guys, they used ropes from the parking lot and pulled it up over the handrails onto the 3rd floor. It was crazy. But we lived down there. I mean, it was, I leveraged the time. I was working 100% remote at the time. So I would do my day job there as my family's, my wife would be painting or working on something or on the beach or whatever. But so it was fun. But we renovated this property. We were going to have it as a short-term rental. The market shifted. So we sold it. I sold it for sale by owner after owning this property for 4.5 weeks. I sold it for sale by owner for $325,000. So I walked away with a paycheck for $103,000. Yeah. There's some big wins that you can have along the way in real estate, and it's about taking advantage of those. At the same time, I just wanted to touch on the things that you're talking about are on your TikTok, which is what I came across a while ago and discovered you. I mean, you're blowing up, so most people out there probably know Rental Cash Flow on TikTok, but it was so neat seeing the videos of you with the kids and your wife literally working these houses on the weekends and at night, and showing people what you did to change your life from these jobs to where you are now, which is you quit your job. Now real estate is your job, managing your own investments. Yeah. And, I think I've already used this quote in our conversation over lunch today, which the ribeye was amazing, by the way. That was fantastic. I don't even know who says this, but use the weekends and evenings to build the life you want, not escape the life you have. There's all these people that'll say what the 2 biggest holdups, money and time, right? Money is something that's an obstacle you can get past. Never assume, we've already talked about this, that you can't figure out a way to get the money, because you can. You just need to learn how. But and that's not because we have money. He's saying that. I want people to really hear this. We all started from nothing in this room, and we could all start from nothing again today. Because if you find the deal and you put in the effort, you can find the money. It's out there. 100%. You picked up the phone, you called about 10 different banks until you found one that could help you get your first house. Exactly. It's that can-do attitude. Yeah. If you want it bad enough, you'll make it happen. You'll get the money. And then the time, is one of those things where people just say, well, my life is too busy. I've got too much stuff going on. I can't make this happen, blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, it's because you're spending your weekends and evenings like the rest of the world, where you're, getting home, in the evening, and you're just so tired and you just want to sit back and you want to watch the game, or you want to go out with friends on the weekend or whatever else. It's like, if you want this bad enough, it's not just going to happen overnight, and it's not going to happen without sacrifices. But I can tell you that the reward of putting in the sacrifices and putting in the time pays out tenfold, because now all of my time is mine to use how I want to, to give and to serve and to be there with my family and be, present as a dad and a father and a husband in ways that I could have never pictured possible before. What a gift. That's because we put in that work that people are not willing to do. But I think that that's important to mention also, because
so many people say, oh yeah, you able to build this real estate, portfolio at, how much time did you spend with your family? How much fun did you have? I think it's a common misconception that, you can do both. And, speaking from Scotty and I's standpoint, there's very few people on this earth that have had more family experiences than Scott.
It's true.
I take, many, experiences with my kids. We talked about it right before the podcast started. I don't work between 5 p.m. and 9 p.m. because that's when I'm a dad.
And real estate has allowed us to have those lives in that time with our families. So it's not about that you sacrificed a lot of time. Early on, maybe the weekends and the evenings, but later on, it frees up your entire life. Yep. Then you have an entire lifetime.
And I think that there's this misconception from people, in doing this, where maybe one person is there working on the property and the other person, is at home. And when my wife and I were considering doing this, we had a heart-to-heart conversation. And, your partner is important, very, very important. I believe that if your partner's not on board, you should not be doing this. I'm just going to say that flat out because I think you're going to, have a really hard time getting to where you want to be if they're not. But my wife has always been supportive. She's always the one who's like reserved on things, and I'm the one that's a go-getter. And then she's the one, once we make the decision, that she pushes us to the finish line. But we had a conversation at the beginning, and we both agreed it's like, we're not going to make this happen unless we make it happen as a family.
So you're the gas, she's the brakes. You cut the brake lines, and then she participates in the gas.
Basically, yeah.
I like
she's always the, well, what if this fails person? But then, once we started, it's like, I started getting nervous, and she's like, no, we committed to this, so you're going to make it happen.
I feel like I've been able to watch your journey.
It's going to get through.
I've been a big follower of you on especially your TikTok. I feel like I've been there for that journey. Seeing you and your wife's participation, and the kids you're dragging them along on these evenings.
Oh,
I saw one of them where your kids are carrying construction materials.
Oh, yeah.
And you guys make it a family thing. It's a really neat thing.
Yeah. Well, we had our first 2 kids while we were living in these homes doing this house hacking. So, we're going to bed in separate, different bedrooms, where we're working in a room or whatever else, or blocking off parts of the house and living in it. Even the house that we live in now, we bought it as a fixer-upper. I mean, I converted the garage into part of the home. We knocked out this giant wall that divided it and made this, open room, and we built it into the house we wanted. So we lived in this construction with these kids, and this is what they learned. But we made that, decision that this was not going to happen unless we did that. So, I'd work, and, her goal was that, she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, and that's what I wanted for her too. And we're homeschooling, and, which has been a huge blessing for us. But, she, would support me in that. I'm doing my job. And then once I get off work, then, we'd work on the house together. And then the weekends we'd work on the house together. Even sometimes, while I'm working, if we had a deadline to meet, she'd go over and be working at the property, painting walls, have a baby in a pack and play in some room without carpet and, all stuff, all over the place, and it's had some setbacks. I mean, our last property we were working on, my son, who's 2, you can imagine how that goes, right? You're painting, we'll walk out of the room for a second, walk back in, he's got the paintbrush in his hand, and there's paint on the carpet and all over the place, taking crayons to walls and other things. But
I think that's a fine family memory that you'll carry for the rest of your life. And we live in a day and age with binge watching and social media. There's a lot of things that promote people being couch potatoes and sitting around. I think it's a fine example for your children, for you and your wife, to be in the trenches, and they will learn their work ethic. From you learn so much from your parents, and watching you guys do this, and ultimately they're going to reap some of the rewards, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you're getting more family experiences. You will set them up for their college one day, I'm assuming, or whatever.
I mean, you've already built generational wealth in this short period.
You built generational wealth, and they will see that their mom and dad, was able to provide this through, hard work and wise, conservative, smart decisions.
And sheer willpower. Yeah. The sheer willpower of having kind of a dead-end job and no hope of how you can create financial freedom, to literally how much was your first check? $2,500? Is that what you said?
$2,500.
From $2,500 and sheer willpower to creating a vast amount of wealth, true wealth through real estate that you have, and the financial freedom to not have to have a job anymore. Your job is to maintain that wealth and to grow it, and to be an example for your kids. So anyone can do this. The other part that gets me in hearing your story here is I sit back here and I think there's so many young folks out there in their 20s that say, went to, a college and went out and got great jobs. Why aren't they investing in real estate? They have the 20,000. They do have the 20,000 down payment. It's so hard to do. It's not hard, but it takes a lot of work and effort and sacrifices to do it the way that we all did it. Right. Those folks, they're crazy to not be adding real estate to their portfolios who can afford it without doing all of this.
Well, what's the statistic? I mean, this was last year at least. The average 65-year-old has, what was it, like $250,000 or $260,000 in the retirement account.
Scary.
65.
Scary.
Like, that's not even enough to make you, a couple years, 2, 3, 4 years. I mean, maybe you can stretch it out a little more than that, but it's not going to make it till you're dead, and the average person that's in their 30s was like 10 or 20 grand, maybe.
Scary.
But, I'll say a lot of things about Dave Ramsey, and we've got different mindsets. I think he's great at helping people get out of debt, but not so much about building, financial freedom, maybe long-term wealth.
He's low risk.
He's low risk. But, I think there's something to be said about that. Like what you're saying is just these people with this money, they get in their mind, well, we're making this money, we're going to live on this money. It's all about living in the flashy, mindset where I'm at kind of now, where, I want to start being able to, maybe spend a little bit more, which is still hard for me to do. I like driving my 2011 Honda Pilot with 165,000 miles, but
I got a 1995 Chevy Tahoe out there in the parking lot.
You guys have new cars compared to me.
Come on.
Your cars are like cutting edge compared to my 1990 Jeep Wrangler.
Yeah. And I get that, like, through TikTok, even people bash me for my car. Well, he's not driving a nice car. He's not. It's like,
he must not be successful.
Yeah, it's like, well, you're over there working a 9-to-5 job, trying to get, by it, but you got a $600, $700, $8, car payment because you want to look a certain way. Well, I've driven this car, and I don't owe anything on it. I bought it cash for 10 grand a couple years ago. And I'd
rather take my family to South Padre Island for a month and pick it.
I'm spending all of January and February there, living in a condo near the beach. And
what'd you spend, July in Florida with your family?
Yeah, it's a little warm for as pale skinned as
I just spent 3 weeks in California with my family. It's about living the right life, and real estate can take anyone there.
Priorities. Priorities. And everybody's living for these appearances right now. And I think that's the problem, is they want to take these vacations, because apparently these young 20-year-olds just think, oh yeah, I need a vacation, every other month, because life is so hard right now and all these other things. It's like,
well, speaking of the flashy lifestyle, I want to kind of transition a little bit. On social media, you see a ton of these gurus, preaching, do you want to get rich quick overnight? And, Scotty and I have always been, very firmly against that lifestyle. We like Dave Ramsey because we feel like no one's getting hurt by his information. Maybe restricts a little bit of growth, but anyhow, what we were so drawn to from you was your social media presence and how real you are, and showing your family and how you've come from nothing. Tell us a little bit about your social media, some of the things you're doing, the message you're putting out there, all of that.
Yeah. So when I started doing social media, my goal was really to help people that were where I used to be get to where we are now, because it has dramatically changed our lives in ways that people who hear the term financial freedom and haven't tasted that or gotten to that point will never understand. But when I started doing TikToks and Instagram and whatever, I wanted to tell our story. I wanted people to be able to see. I just started recording our family. Like, this is what we're working on right now. This is what we're doing. Like, these are the projects that we're doing with the kids, and I'll talk numbers sometimes, but that's because I want people to be able to see, this is what's possible. This is what you can actually do. Even today, this is what you can do. I feel like there's all these, influencers out there doing Airbnbs or whatever else, short-term rentals are the hot commodity right now. That's what people are all about, is the short-term rentals. But I'll say this all the time, but I think that people need to get their toes wet with a long-term rental and a long-term tenant before they think about doing short-term, but to each their own. But, there's these guys driving these Lambos and living in these mansions, and, who knows if they even own this stuff, but it's creating this false picture of what financial freedom really is. Financial freedom is not making millions of dollars a year and just, throwing money out the window to the masses and, going and living in these beach houses. It's about having your time back to be able to use how you want to. Where now I would say I don't set an alarm. I've got a 3-month-old, so that alarm's already, set with him. But
I know that drill.
We wake up, I make breakfast with my family. I used to get migraines all the time from stress. I don't get migraines anymore. I wake up, I make breakfast with my family. We sit down, we read the Bible, we pray as a family. We start the morning slow. My wife will then, she's leading the homeschooling for the most part right now, probably until they're a little bit older. But then I go down and I'll work out. I'll check on some of our properties. I'll, make sure that guest communication with our short-term rentals is good. But usually 2 to 3 hours a week I'm spending doing that stuff. And then we'll just spend the day together. We'll go outside on a 4-wheeler ride. We'll go, play with the horses or the chickens or whatever else. And, we travel together.
You got a 4-wheeler?
Oh, I've got multiples.
Oh man,
dude, everybody has a 4-wheeler at my house. We've got like 4 of them right now, I think.
Language.
Yeah, you're talking right up our alley.
Yeah. I don't like to buy flashy things, no, but I've got a nice 4-wheeler. I gotta say my 4-wheeler.
Yeah, I bought half of a side by side. I own 50% of it. I've never seen it. Because of him.
Half of a side-by-side? I think that's called a 4-wheeler.
He bought one in our name, I paid for half of it. I'm not joking. I've never seen it.
No.
Well, I do all of the snow plowing for the different office buildings that we have, and a lot of times it makes it easier that it's at my house more often.
I can understand that.
It is, but Hey,
that makes sense.
You own trucks and trailers.
I do.
Plural.
Yeah.
So I don't want to hear anything.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
But back to you. Yeah. So $2,500 and a bunch of time spent with your family, working hard.
Yep.
But not a whole bunch of sacrifice, in my opinion. It was hard work.
Yeah,
but
it
really,
was sacrifice of time was the main thing.
But it got you time back.
Exactly. Yep.
So, anyone can do this. I don't want to hear it that real estate is, only for the wealthy or for high earners. It's not. In fact, real estate's the number one way someone can change their station in life. Mm-hmm. From nothing, from a teacher's son who didn't have a dad around to Clints, who started with nothing. Yeah. He graduated college and had nothing. He was selling piss biscuits and air fresheners.
True that.
And nothing. And it created the freedom where I haven't worked a day in my life. Let's be honest.
Yep.
I haven't worked a day in my life because I'm in real estate and I love what I do.
Matt was installing piss biscuits and air fresheners.
Yeah, so and you were selling them.
Say, I set him up, he knocked him down.
Yeah.
There you go. It was in elementary school too, man. So that was rough. Man. Yeah, that was rough.
But anyone can do this. That's why I love that book, The Millionaire Next Door, and a bunch of these other books that we really believe in. If you go to the homeboyspodcast.com, there's a list of resources and books that really help kind of share some of the wisdom that we've talked about and the ways other people have done this. But I love that story because it's so true. So many people come up with reasons why they can't do it, and you just ignored them all. And you just said, okay, I'm going to go do this. Yeah. I'm going to call banks and figure out a way to buy my first house, and then I'm going to turn that one into a rental and buy my next house.
Yep. And our goal from the start was just, how can I replace my salary? Now, my salary grew as time went on. But like I told you guys before, like my biggest salary that I ever had at my last job was $68,000 a year. That's the most I was ever making. People look at that like, what? Like, how could you do that? I mean, we did that because we learned how to be creative and how to figure out ways to buy properties without, saving the 20% down, because realistically, I could have never done that otherwise. So it's not all about, what you're making. It's about how you, figure out how to be creative with that and make it happen.
$68,000 a year, 4 kids to support with that money, and you still found a way to change your life where you don't even need that $68,000 job anymore because of real estate. It's really a neat story. I love your TikToks. If you're listening to this, go check out his TikToks.
Yeah, Rental Matt, tell us, where can we find you on social media?
Yeah, so Rental Cash Flow. Just like it sounds, Rental Cash Flow. Matt, you'll find me on Instagram or TikTok. TikTok is where I do most of my work, so you'll see me on there. But I love making content just about our life, about installing an HDMI port at a short-term rental. I talk about Airbnbs, and I talk about how we got started, and I just kind of go through our story, and you'll learn about it from there. Rental. Well,
I'm a huge fan, as you know. I love the content that you make. You make it all entertaining. The fact that you include your family and really show how this works is really neat. And for folks who just have already made it, it's still fun to watch what he puts out there. He does do a lot of educational stuff that will help you become successful in real estate because he's walked the walk and he shows you how he did it. But at the same time, it's fun to watch his stuff regardless. So I recommend checking it out.
Amen. And we really appreciate you coming on the show. Yeah. Really enjoyed getting to know you. We hope to maybe do some collaborations, or if nothing else, just stay in touch. Maybe we head out to Iowa and you feed us a steak whenever we.
I'll show you guys my meat birds out there. So
we'd love that. Well, that's our show. You have to check him out, Matt Krueger, Rental Cash Flow, blowing up on TikTok and Instagram. Really great guy, really great family man. We're inspired by him. Make sure you check out the Homeboys content too. You can check us out at the Homeboys Pod on TikTok. You can also find us on Instagram and Facebook. Till next time, homies, happy investing.